Earnings day is here. I figured I'd start the kind of the slideshow or whatever, all that fun stuff early. So it did come out, so I'm going to break it down for you, and hopefully we will get some good info coming from the conference call. Again, I'm going to be live streaming that, so make sure you guys stay tuned. But in case you guys do not know, numbers did come out. Overall, 57.7 million as far as test drives and things like that. 360 vehicles delivered in Q1. Let me know your thoughts on that. So tentatively, I did a video earlier today only because Bank of America was predicting 393. Very close to that. Myself, I was under the impression I would assume at least 450. Yeah, let's get right to it. There's a lot of fun stuff to talk about today. Let me know your thoughts, what you guys are thinking. What is going on, Sammy? Thanks for popping out. So I think in general, I don't know. My interpretation from the first previous earnings was that this one wasn't necessarily going to be the best in general. So that aside, in theory, it should go up, especially considering they haven't really cut production. So that's one thing. They maintained the 12 to 14,000 despite us, the bleak kind of likelihood. Most likely they're going to say in the conference call that it's going to be, that's one aspect that they're going to be working on, is the tail end of 2022 is going to bumping up production. But so I did do a video, and actually eerily it was close given the projection and kind of the momentum reservations were doing. I gave two predictions, one 33,000, one 40,000, because they've been kind of a little bit more inconsistent in the past as far as reservations on actual true data. But 30,000 was kind of expected. It's not growing at the same rate. It was showing a little bit more slowing despite the number of studios increasing significantly. But anyways, that aside though, it's still fairly positive. What is going on, Arrow? VCRT, Juan? Yeah, it's exciting time. And so you can see that the live ticker is well going. So you'll be able to see, and the reason why I have that is things act fairly fast. So during a conference call, when you hear something, especially if something might not be that well, you'll see the action on the bid and the ask move quite fast. So just keep that in mind and watch that, because I think that's going to be a play of pivotal point. Even today, we've just after hours, we've gone kind of moved around quite a lot, pretty fast. So I'm just going to show you this. Also, I'm going to go over some stats, some stuff to know, but you can even see on the after hours activity, it is very much all over the place. We did hit a low, looks like, of 1820, which was pretty much close to our low today. Then we hit a high of 1940. So all over the place. I think it's ultimately going to come down to the fact about their conference call, what they give, because I don't know, not to say Lucid is a amateur company. How I read this, it literally might be word for word on how they say it. And typically the last earnings as well, it sounded very scripted, very neutral, similar to what it reads as this. So we'll see if what 𝗪𝗪𝗧 does have to say, and hopefully she adds a little bit more enthusiasm. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really signal any citing supply chain issues. So hopefully that will be a good thing. And if they don't, I think that might be the saving grace, because at the end of the day, I think all of us were under the impression that production was a little bit subpar. But reservations increasing is a positive note. I want to see of that remaining of the difference, because again, previous was 25, so 5,000 in additional reservations, where that was oriented, whether that's from North America or Europe, because this is going to be the first earnings that does incorporate that Europe was able to reserve vehicles. So especially that is a big deal. I always bring this up because hands down this is a very big deal, and this is why I always like Lucid's growth. Looking at Europe and China, look at that untapped potential that Lucid's about to hit. Whereas I was very surprised. I think this is why there's a lot of things that isn't indicated on their results that they've provided us so far. That is big stuff. Like for instance, the U.S. The majority of the, well, what they said in last earnings, majority of the 25,000 reservations already came from the states. That is a very big deal, given, as you can see on the chart, it is lacking Europe. So the fact that demand is increasing in the states is pretty significant, in my opinion. But still, it shows that there's demand, like pretty good demand, at least 30,000. And I think the fact that they haven't cut production, there was some people that were saying that they were going to cut it down to 8. That wasn't realistic, but still. And then it does go into effect about the pricing. I think that was obviously expected with the commodity pricing increasing as much as it is. But give yourself a shout out if you did buy today. Today was one crazy of a day, and the stupid thing is that I was even projecting after the Fed meeting we're going to have a little bit more calming and kind of reverse up, which we did, to be honest. We actually did get a nice momentum from the Fed meeting, which we all know that. Just unfortunately the bigger players is just causing the yields to go up, which just brings back a lot more fear, especially with CPI data coming out next week. It's a interesting time for investors, but hopefully a lot of good things will come from this earnings and give us a nice little bump up. And more so as well, just before I get into anything further, just want to show you some updates. So looking here, shorts did close out the positions, and I like to look at a lot of these kind of in between things and read between the lines. So the fact that shorts did close out roughly about 1.5% today shows that they were uneasy. It's not worth the risk for shorts to maintain holding into Lucid, especially cost to borrow was around 16 previously. So cost to borrow going down, usually it's a little bit more inverse, right? So cost to borrow and the short interest are inverse. So typically when it gets cheaper for shorts to increase, like things like that, cheaper shorts increase, vice versa. So this whole thing is very interesting, and it'd be interesting as well to see what their options are for tomorrow, because I always use them as a very good benchmark because clearly they're opposite to what we believe. Even today, only 8% positive as far as overall options activity, $3.55 million worth of options being done as well. Just want to bring up one thing as well, because I'm a big fan of always looking at this, is always the sentiment. So kind of leading into the earnings, we did have a very positive outlook of Lucid. So that is a interesting takeaway, at least. So we'll see how that kind of portrays itself tomorrow. Does look like after hours it's up, but keep in mind we also went down 7% based on hypothetical just yields going up. So I think we, in general, got hit a lot more than what we should have been. Okay. Ali, they delivered a whopping, ding, 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 360. So, I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. 360, I don't know. So they've delivered in total this year less than 1,000 vehicles. I don't know what your takeaway on that is, but I did do a poll as well right here. How many vehicles do you think is going to be delivered in Q1? And so 360, 18% of individuals are right. Still, the large consensus was that it was going to be less than 200. So the mere fact that we did that, clearly not much expectation. Even Bank of America, which is one of our biggest fans in general, has only 393 as our projection. And then also, I'm just going to bounce back to Interactive Brokers. And I just want to show you this. So hopefully, I don't know. Let's see what analysts actually provide us as well. So lately, our last couple have been not too bad. We got Adam Jonas as well, the $12 one. That was at the beginning of March. April 11th, we got one, a $45 price target. So we'll see what analysts see and interpret as far as from this earnings. And where that takes us. But I think us as a newer company, we have to kind of take what we can from the earnings. I know it wasn't, I think nobody, even here, I don't think anyone was assuming 2,000 vehicles were going to be delivered. That's not realistic. And we're a fairly new company, so I think, I don't know, I'm okay with that. So just going to go over some additional information. So you can see it goes over some basic information as far as stats for kilowatt hours. I am a big balance sheet individual. I like looking at this. So they have 5.4 billion in cash. Previously, you can see based on their last earnings, they had 6.26. So where they about 800,000 they're burning, or 800 million, I should say, sorry, 800 million they're burning through every quarter. So I don't know if you want to take that as a positive thing. If you scroll down here, previously cash from operations, they were having a burn rate of 1 billion, just over 1 billion. So the fact that this quarter from the previous is 800, it's not too bad. And I say that lightly, 800 million is definitely still a loss, but given the growth potential with Lucid, I think it's acceptable. But it does obviously touch on the Saudi deal that went through. I'm just keeping the earnings thing alive just so I can hear it. So when it starts, which isn't for another good while, but it does talk on pricing, and I think this is why people are saying that the peer, once it does, and plus I think there is developing as far as the peer, especially based on Bear's workshop, it does show signs that a peer was actually done. But I think 87,000 for a vehicle, and especially given the price point, it's going in the right direction. I think hopefully. Okay, so this is my 2 cents again. I'm a very big fan of Lucid, but I'm not going to argue. I don't sugarcoat it. I like to give the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's why I'm sure you guys are aware of that. But last earnings, very neutral. I've already said that. But when the analysts asked questions, I think Peter and the management team didn't really fully grasp what was being asked. Like, for instance, I believe that there was someone asked, is there a partnership coming up or something along those lines? And I don't think they even answered the question. They just kind of stuttered a little bit. So hopefully they ask at least a general question. What is going to be, like for instance, like, are we going to have that lower price vehicle, that $30,000 or $25,000 vehicle? Because Peter did say it previously, that is planned. But keep in mind, given inflation and commodity prices, that's most likely not realistic. Probably now it's going to be 35, but still. So this is in December he said that. So less than a year ago he did say that in 4 years they're going to have $25,000 vehicle, coinciding with the integration of NVIDIA. So they're obviously in this earnings going to touch on NVIDIA, that Saudi deal, which is fairly good. Not as good as a lot of people were expecting or how they portray it, because it is over a 10-year span. And but still, I think there's a lot of positive things, and that's one thing that I'm going to try to focus on, is reading between the lines of things that are said that you should focus on. Especially if you're a long-term investor, you want to focus on the in-between thing, the things that aren't necessarily being said, the stuff that's not even apparent right here. So yeah, just take that how you see that. As far as a round of 13Fs, next 2 weeks is going to play a big part, because a lot of the big players, more specifically as well, PIF, is going to be disclosing their position. So PIF right here, Vanguard, and Morgan Stanley as well are all going to be on the same day, and it is going to be very interesting to see Morgan Stanley, how their position was. Especially more recently, they did increase it with 300,000%, but I think that's largely attributed to Lucid getting added to the NASDAQ 100. So that's probably incorporating that as far as that. Let's see. Just going through what is going on, everyone. Thanks for coming out. D Young, how does that work? 500 per quarter. That's 20,000 by the end of the year. think you put 2 extra zeros on that D Young, because in general it should be 500 per quarter. Shane, so far they as far as being neutral, it starts in about 40 minutes. So earnings hasn't necessarily started, I believe, but hopefully they amp it up. That's my takeaway. And exactly, John. I think no matter what, hands down, we have to take from this what we will. And I think we're already under the impression that this was going to be the worst earnings out of anything. It's going to be up from here. So I pointed out last earnings. Typically, that's one thing I always learned from anything. The market is one of the most purest places where after earnings, it will automatically adjust to its true value. So the fact that after earnings on previous one, it went to 24.48. This one, it went immediately. It's kind of limbering, but still, the fact that we're at 19 and we've gone down so much today, it shows even though it's not the best earnings, we haven't really delivered too much, we are fairly priced in at $19. So, and I agree with Let's Go John. Let's Go Lucid. Let's Go John. But still, that worked out. Q2, 3, and 4 it's up and up. So this is why, I'm excited. Yeah, Mark, I did read that. So I think they basically, this is where I get that I feel that this hands down is already their kind of presentation to us. They're literally going to read it word for word from this. Because I did see that, saying that they have up until, where was that? Right here, yeah. Cash on hand is $5.4 billion, which is expected to fund the company well into 2023. So again, this is why I like to do these things. I like to give you the good, the bad, the ugly, and dilution is a common thing, especially for a company starting up. But I don't want to give the projection that it's going to be fully diluted, because most likely PIF has already said in the past, especially if it's associated to their facility that they're building, they're going to be taking a large percentage of the costs. So it's going to be not necessarily, I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see. So I wouldn't really take that as a negative thing, Mark, per se, because there's a lot of companies out there that is going to go need money and dilute well before 2023, most likely even in 2022. So having 5.4 billion is not too bad, in my opinion, at least. But I get what you're saying, though. That's kind of things that stands out, and especially, I guess based on your comment, Mark, Lucid to 0, clearly not too optimistic of Lucid. Leo, so far, again, I think the big things that a lot of people are waiting on is obviously Peter to speak, hopefully not citing supply chain issues. But generally speaking, looking at this, reservations went up. They have about 5.4 billion in cash. They're developing the Pure, which is going to be around 87,000. So they're getting a little bit lower, which is a little bit more ideal. Get a little bit more customers being appealed to that price point. 360 vehicles being delivered. That hands down isn't the best, but yeah, it is what it is. They can't really change that. I think you have to show a progression. And typically what you want to do if you are looking at a company, you want to look at growth. Not all earnings is going to be very positive. You want to look for continued advancements. So the fact that they haven't cut delivery production shows that they're optimistic. 360 is fairly good. It definitely is blown the previous quarter out of the water. So it's, I don't know, in reality, it is what it is. Like, this was the poll here. Clearly 21% of individuals thought 1,500, which it would have been nice, to have 1,500, but I think based on Bear's workshop, which he does a phenomenal job, I think that was unrealistic, to say the least. So overall, Leo, I am not too bad. I think in reality, this still shows that we are evenly priced to where we should be, if not a little bit lower. So I think we might have a little bit more of a rebound. There's a lot of fear, and I'm sure I don't need to tell you guys that. There's a lot of fear out in the market. People are talking all the time about recessions, blah, blah, blah. But even looking here, you can see 2.4 million shares being purchased by institutions. That's based on the block volume column. I don't think you get that just by faking earnings or doing something in that regard. So and also 22.5 million, so that's actually pretty good. I know we've been struggling to get over around 16, so the fact that it's 22.5, it's not too bad. Hopefully might be a good transition for a lot of other institutions to get in because of that. Wally, right now, just based on simple math, they had 6.26 billion, and now they have 5.4, so about 800 million that they've essentially lost. That's their burn rate. Previous quarter, though, was 1.06 billion. So at least, again, in that regard, if you're going to be comparing, they are improving. And I think for the first 2 or 3 quarters, most likely, they are going to have higher operation costs. Because it makes sense, right? They've done a lot of hiring. That's not cheap by any means. Training and providing skilled and training to employees, very costly. Okay. That just kicked back on again, but yeah, let's see. So we have about half an hour left until earnings. Yeah, I think people are just digesting, and hands down, they're just waiting for the upcoming earnings. Who's excited for this, guys? Oh, did I say that wrong, Ali? 77? Sorry, I think I said 87. Richard, you know what? I think your count, I invested in Tesla very early on, and I heard the exact same situation and comments from people talking about Tesla early on, that they can't produce vehicles, they're going bankrupt. And unfortunately, a lot of that FUD did influence me when I was an investor, and I actually sold prematurely. So this is why I'm a very big advocate of Lucid, because I know that they are on the right trajectory to do a lot of good things. And I think, yes, it's negative, but keep in mind though, if Lucid was producing at the same rate that Tesla was, or even if there was no risk, 1,000,000%, we would not be at 19. We would be at 80 if Lucid could actually produce vehicles as what it was being said. So I think, Richard, the age-old thing, you get what you pay for. That's why Lucid is at 19. Exactly, JP. Yeah. No, I think they had a little bit more issues, but other than that, oh, Mark is Warren. Oh, Warren. Dwight, I know you pop in on occasion on some live streams, very not optimistic. I feel like you like to give a lot of doomsday stuff. But you know what? There very well could be a recession. I'm not here to say that. Based on, I think people are just really overly worried too much. As far as some economic data, like yesterday, what came out was the non-farm employment change, which was a drastic drop. So that definitely shows that consumers, because I think one of the biggest things that has been keeping the economy up and propped up for so long is consumers have been spending money than if they've shown that they've had money. So I think this non-farm employment was a big hit to them. In addition to that, though, then obviously we had the Fed meeting. Today we had, as far as the jobless claims, so a little bit higher than expected. And then tomorrow we have also the non-farm payroll. So that should show how much money people have been making, consumers, again, going back to that. The next week we have CPI data. So I think we are in for a very volatile ride, but I think this should set the trajectory for Lucid on where it is and shows its true growth prospects and what it can actually do. So yeah, it's techie. To be honest, I think in general today was a little bit more of an overreaction. So subtract that, we could easily get over the 1950 tomorrow. Just as long as Peter does not say anything about supply chain issues, does not cite that they're going to be, or like, you know what they always say, evaluating circumstances and possibly reducing outlook for 2022 and possibly in the future. Something along those lines. You get what I'm saying. As long as he doesn't give bad data, like there's a reason as well that you can see that we're propped up. So we're actually up after hours for a reason, right? There's a reason that we're not at 18 because today we got overly killed, well more than what we should have been. We actually had a low of $18.35. Give yourself a shout out if you did buy today because today is one crazy of a day. And in addition to that, though, I think that a lot of analysts will take this information and have a good viewpoint on it, in my opinion at least. I like a lot of good stats that comes from here. Feel free to click the link, and obviously Interactive Brokers has a lot of good information. So I use it for a lot of the analyst logs, even the forecasts. I like to always look at social sentiment as well. So in case you're just joining us, leading into the earnings, people were fairly positive about Lucid. So it's interesting to see how that will play out for tomorrow and how that might change. In addition to that, I'm just going to put in the chat as well. There's a lot of Lucid Discords out there. Admin life, yep. I'm going to put this in the chat. Feel free to pop over there. Out of all the Lucid chats, Discords, I even have a Discord myself, but I go to this one for a lot of good information. Even there's a lot of big people such as John, Let's Go Lucid, who's in there. It's a good place to be. Highly suggest popping over there and taking a look. John, let's see. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you guys don't have money in it, then I fear to say it that I don't know. You have to have some skin in the game to have a fairly big stance on that. And I think that having about almost 21% short interest is way too high for given what we're going to see. But yeah, it's no matter what people say, it's not as bad as what people think, especially next week. I believe it's on I thought it was the 13th, but John, I believe, did post something saying it was the 12th or the 13th. 12th, one of those 2 days is the Munich launch. So that is a good transition because like I've already showed you this chart, Europe has a huge untapped potential, as does China, but I care more about Europe, especially considering when the Saudi factory actually gets up and running, they are going to be funding and delivering vehicles to Europe. So I think Europe is a very pivotal point, shows that there's demand, especially with oil prices as high as they are. It's advantageous for a lot more people nowadays to even switch to EVs. And keep in mind, Europe largely doesn't have any additional benefits or tax credits or anything like that. They're just going largely based on electricity is cheaper than gas out there. Whereas the States is finally transitioning and finding reasons to adapt and move to an EV vehicle because of gas prices. Which I believe at the very bottom it does actually point that out. could be wrong. It did indicate somewhere here. Right here. Yeah. So it goes over the pricing, but it does talk on that $7,500 federal tax credit that you do get. And it goes over, it looks like as of June 1st, it looks like the prices will be adjusted. So $87,000 for the Air Pure, $107 for the Touring, and $154 for the Air Grand Touring. So I like seeing the Air Pure going down a little bit, and that's more of a advantageous. It should hit a lot of the middle class that wants to have a very luxurious vehicle. And I'm very excited for if they ever do accomplish this, the $25,000 vehicle. I think as well, I did post something that hopefully they cited that the end of September, or around at the end of summer, so August or September, that they're going to start in-house cell production. So that's a big deal, if you ask me, because I think it goes to show, because not only that, Biden did have that $3.1 billion kind of incentive to do that through the infrastructure plan. And it looks like it's flat right now. Nobody is moving. Everyone's just waiting on edge for the earnings. So oh, thanks, John. 12th. So Mark, why can't Lucid be ramp production? Well, we will find out from Peter himself. Oh, you're welcome, Ali. I appreciate that. Yeah, I agree, Nathaniel. It's so cheap right now. I don't know. Just want to show you this as well. Let's see if it's going to lay out correctly. So these are all every single tick, every single trade from today. You can see some large orders being done, but I think everyone, even us, institutions, everyone was waiting for the numbers to come out. So you see a couple big orders around 100,000 each, which is fairly good. Exactly, John. Sammy is very, very much positive, and I like that. Oh, good stuff, John. Buy another 500. I didn't anticipate a drop per se, but if it does, I sold a lot of puts. So if it does go below those amounts, then I get more shares. I've been doing that over the last little bit because if it either expires worthless, I get my premium, or if it goes down, then I get more shares. So it's a win-win for me. I'm happy for that. It's interesting to see, though. I know a lot of us, I already did this poll, in case you're just joining, as far as projections on what people think it might go to. But I find it weird that the fact that Bank of America seemed to have thought it was 393. How do they... I wonder how they know. They must... I don't know. Because they were eerily very close. And in case you're just joining, 360 vehicles were delivered. So Bank of America might win the closeness. I think next earnings, what we should do is some the Price is Right. Maybe I'll do that on the channel for the next earnings. We'll do Price is Right to see exactly who gets it. Maybe we can do a prize. That might make things interesting. Sammy, right now I have 4,700. I do have, if it does blow 17, I sold 2 puts for the 17 strike price, sold 5 puts at the 16.50 strike price. Only I did that because I wanted to collect the premium. So if it does for any reason, let's say Peter just comes out and says, like, you know what, we're cutting production or whatever, he throws a bombshell, then I think, whatever, I'm going to add more shares. So I'm happy with the amount I have. But same thing as what Masked Gamer has said, I also have cash on the sideline. I'm waiting for if there was a tentative dip. So you never know, right? Oh, good stuff. Technologics. Yeah, see, exactly what he said, or what Tech said, is that this is the first earnings that you can actually, that we'll see any orders from Europe. So I think that's a very big thing. And Sammy, I wish I was a boss like John. John, hands down. Actually, just a shout out. Anyone have more than 15,000 shares? Give yourself a shout out here. If not, John is the man. I think he should actually open the question. But actually, on a side note, I actually personally didn't see what the questions are. Hopefully, we'll see what some of the top questions are. So, number 1, I didn't like this question. How do you intend to compete with both Tesla and Rivian given current supply chain and market constraints? I didn't like that because Peter literally outright said that he doesn't see Tesla and Rivian as a competition, that Lucid has no competition. So I think that is going to be a question that can easily be downplayed, be like, oh, Lucid doesn't have any competition. I don't know. This question at least is number 2 still, the ESS. I think that's a big thing. So the investor presentation in July 2021 mentions a prototype ESS progressing well. How is the Lucid energy storage system progressing now, and when do you expect production for the Lucid ESS to begin? Perfectly asked question. I wish they would have asked that actually last earnings as well, but you can't have it all. Number 3, they're bringing up this. It's not too bad of a question, actually. It looks like they're just seeing about any potential big deals coming out around the world, rest of the world. So who knows? And then, okay, so there's 2.1 thousand votes. Did anyone here vote for this question? I really hope not. Give your Oh, John. Let's see. Oh, good stuff, Mass Gamer. 92 is still better than nothing. Well, we'll find out, Mark, to see what the truth is. Exactly, John. Everyone is a winner. But I don't like this question on a side note, though. What is Lucid's 5-year plan? I think that's just, for the most part, they're pretty transparent. I don't know. There's a lot better plans. Do you plan to make more affordable vehicles? That is a very good question. Hopefully they talk on this. Obviously, with commodity prices going up and other factors, 25,000 probably will be in reality 35 or possibly even 40. But still, even a $40,000 vehicle, you hit that middle class exactly, and then we will become that company that everyone sees. Everyone will see a Lucid. Okay, so just got a note. It looks like 15 minutes from now. Hey, Shimar, thanks for coming out. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think, you know what, given the sell-off that happened today, I think we're overdue for kind of a rally before that. And now factoring in these earnings, and in case you are just joining in, it's not too bad. 360 vehicles for deliveries, 30,000 for reservations. Didn't cut outlook for 2022, so still maintaining the 12 to 14,000. And then they are adjusting the pricing as of June 1st. So kind of incentivizing people to have this. And you know, it's, I think, a good marketing thing. If you have like a good set of hands, but yet if you want to roll it over, and I'm trying to find a good analogy for this. Basically, in the past, Lucid has done very inconsistent for stating reservations. Q3 of 2021, they gave two numbers. So I'm sure we all know that, 13 and 17,000. 13,000 the true Q3 numbers, and then 17 which the as of the November 15th. But Q4 rolled around. They didn't actually give Q4 numbers. They gave numbers as of February the 28th. And then today, it looks like they are doing true Q1 numbers. I think they're doing that because by doing so, they're going to make next quarter's earnings seem that much better. Because I think them seeing here, so effective June 1st, they're increasing the prices, because it does say that you have up until all existing reservations up to May 31st, blah blah blah. So it's kind of pushing people to book and reserve a vehicle by May 31st. So meaning next earnings will have maybe 60, or that's a little bit higher. Actually, it's not too high. Like if we incorporate Europe as well, and a lot of other studios that's opening up in Canada, the States, like it's not too bad. No, Dwight, they're not lying. It's just different ways how to interpret things. I think in general, there's a lot of CEOs out there and other companies that legitimately high. I'm a very big fan of Lucid, and I think they have a lot of big things coming for it this year. So it's a very exciting time for Lucid in general. And I think already, like I've said this numerous times, it's the previous earnings. We tentatively already knew that earnings was going to be a little bit lower. Mark. You know what, Mark? In general, I think it just it takes time. I think it's being very narrow-minded to think that Lucid was going to be right out the gate. I think one thing is that people propped up Lucid very, very high straight away because they have amazing technology, have a better balance sheet than Tesla. So a lot of people instantly compared it to Tesla. I think in itself that is a very big success because Lucid was a pre-production company comparing itself to, or others comparing itself to Tesla. And the fact that how much people have been really, even Tesla fans have been really kind of hitting on Lucid quite hard because clearly they're feared or very fearful of what Lucid can do. But I think there's a lot of companies coming for Tesla's throne, to be honest. GM being one of them. Because GM recently got a investment from 𝗖𝗓𝗡𝗖𝗧. And outside of that, though, they've already done a lot of big investments for kind of LiDAR, same kind of things. Mark, he is actually not paid. So long story short, so I did do a video. I'm not sure if you guys saw that. for Peter, where I cited saying that there was concerns about his pay, saying that he got 556 million in compensation, restricted stock compensation. There was individuals that have been sending me stuff on Twitter that it shows that it wasn't necessarily true, but I still think even with that facts that they have, it's very finite and difficult to actually interpret, because I don't think even a lot of the articles that came out all say inconsistent information to one another. So before it obviously starts, I'm going to share that with you. Ultimately, I think there was about 4 different tranches that Peter is paid from. 45% of it is done based on time. So he has to work for Lucid for around 4 years, where he gets 44% of that 556 million. I can pull that up actually. Okay, so right here. So right here, if you guys can see this, but he's definitely not paid to pump the stock. He's, I think, very neutral by stance because of him being an engineer, and he's more calculated. But based on this, he had 45% of his restricted stock is paid by time, so he has to work for 4 years. 55% of that is performance based, and of that is broken into 4 different tranches. And right now he's only gotten one of that. So I don't believe all the articles are correct about this. That's on a side note. Five more minutes till countdown, guys. It's exciting. Again, make sure you guys stay tuned, because I'm going to give you kind of read between the lines kind of stakes on that and what's really being said, and to see if there's any kind of things that we need to worry about. Ronald, that is a very good question. Yeah, after hours, it's been pretty much the bid and the ask has barely moved at all. It's up after hours, had quite a lot of volatility. So I'm just going to show you this. Okay, so you can see even after hours, it's been very volatile. It hit the intraday low, give or take, of 1820. Hit a high of around 1945. It's kind of happy middle place right now. It's just, I think everyone is on the edge of our seats, even myself, waiting for Peter. So we're about 4 more minutes, and then I'll put it on. I'll mute myself so you guys don't hear me or anything like that, and then I'll give you my take on that at the end. But yeah, just I have the live tickers going just so you guys can see generally when Peter or Shelly or someone says something positive, negative, you'll see the bid and the ask move accordingly. So you'll be able to see what is positive in general, or at least what people interpret as positive. Because keep in mind, after hours activity is extremely volatile. But still, it's exciting time. Thanks, Sammy. Appreciate that. I know I did already put this out. So I'm just going to put this out there once again. In case you guys are looking for a good Discord, this is a fairly good Discord for Lucid. This is where I go to for a lot of good information as well. So just take that how you see that. How's it going, Pedro? You know what, Wally? I actually think the same thing. I have a very optimistic viewpoint on what's going to be said. And the fact that they have a fairly good amount of cash, they're decreasing their burn rate. It shows that they're getting operations down pat, that they're moving in the right direction. Because there's a lot of companies, aka Rivian, that is actually going the opposite way. From their previous earnings, their burn rate has actually increased. And not only that, their CEO, they're burning their bridge. They're not satisfying individuals' agreements as far as purchase prices. They're increasing it. It's a whole... I think we take for granted what Peter's doing and what Lucid is. So just keep in mind, this is why Lucid is a very good company, because their customer support as well. I think afterwards as well, I might have a couple people who do have Lucids on the channel. I have personally spoke to a couple already, and they've already said they've bought a Tesla in the past. They bought Lucid, and hands down the experience that they've had with Lucid is so much better. So I think that is also something that you can't really tell based on stats. Can't tell based on financial earnings. The fact that Lucid has a better customer service base, it's one of those things that it's just sets it apart from the rest. Fahim, no, not yet. It is most likely going to be still hear the fun music. Exactly, James. So if it took Lucid or Tesla 9 years and Lucid does it in 4, or give or take, or even sooner, that just speaks so much volume. Oh, that is a good question, Nathaniel. No, not yet. No. Still got the hold music. I have my phone as well, just to double check. Ronald, I think so many people are bearish. Either they're shorting, even some people as well on Twitter I've spoken to, and they're shorting Lucid. So there's 120 million shares currently that are being shorted. Today there was a little bit change, at least, so people were closing out. 4.4 million shares returned overall. Clearly people are scared about the earnings, especially more so from the shorts standpoint, so it's very positive. Still nothing. No, that is still... I have it playing on my phone and my here as well, just so I can tune it in. And I guess they have different times or times that they say that it's going to be. Two minutes late. Maybe they're too happy over there. Hey Ram, thanks for coming out. Oh, that'd be amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by and welcome to the Lucid Group First Quarter 2022 Earnings Conference Call. Please be advised that today's conference is being recorded. Later, we will conduct a question and answer session. If you have a question, please press the star and one on your touch-tone phone. I would now like to turn the conference over to your speaker for today, 𝗪𝗓𝗓𝗓, Senior Director of Investor Relations. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, and welcome to Lucid Group's first quarter 2022 earnings call. Joining me today are Peter Rawlinson, our CEO and CTO, and Sherry House, our CFO. Before handing the call over to Peter, let me remind you that some of the statements on this call, particularly those regarding the future financial performance of the company, production and delivery volumes, macroeconomic and industry trends, company initiatives, supply chain dynamics, expansion of our studios and manufacturing facilities, and other future events are based on the information that we have as of today and constitute forward-looking statements within the meaning of the Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995. Forward-looking statements are subject to numerous risks, uncertainties, and other factors that could cause actual results to differ from expectations, and we refer you to the cautionary language included in risk factors in our quarterly report on Form 10-Q for the quarter ended March 31st, 2022, as well as other documents filed or to be filed with the SEC for a fuller discussion of such risks, uncertainties, and other factors. Forward-looking statements made during today's call speak only as of the time they are made, and we are under no obligation and expressly disclaim any obligation to update, alter, or otherwise revise any forward-looking statements, either as a result of new information, future events, or otherwise, except as required by law. You are cautioned not to place undue reliance on these forward-looking statements. In addition, management will make reference to non-GAAP financial measures during this call. A discussion of why we use non-GAAP financial measures and information regarding reconciliation of our GAAP versus non-GAAP results is available in our earnings press release issued earlier this afternoon, as well as in the investor deck available on the investor relations section of our website at ir.lucidmotors.com. With that, I'd like to turn the call over to Lucid's CEO and CTO, Peter Rawlinson. Peter, please go ahead.
Thank you, 𝗪𝗓𝗓𝗓. In Q1, we delivered 360 vehicles to customers, nearly tripling the 125 cars delivered in Q4 of 2021. Furthermore, in April alone, we delivered well over 300 vehicles, demonstrating our accelerated production ramp. And this growth progression keeps us nicely on track for our 12,000 to 14,000 production target, as Sherry will tell us more about shortly. We're pleased with the demand we're seeing, and now we have more than 30,000 reservations as of today. Note that this 30,000 figure does not include the recent up to 100,000 car deal with the government of Saudi Arabia, which is entirely incremental. I'd like to thank the entire Lucid team for their dedication and hard work. We're off to a great start, and we're only just beginning. We have a lot of hard work ahead of us, but we're up for the challenge, and we're on track for some great milestones this year. In just 2 short quarters since we started deliveries, we've garnered many industry accolades, beating out some very well-established luxury car brands. The Lucid Air is now used in the same breath as some of the best-known luxury car luminaries in the market. And that's truly amazing if you think about it. In the first quarter, Lucid Air was named the best luxury electric car by US News and World Report. It was named Luxury Electric Vehicle of the Year by Cars.com and Best Car to Buy 2022 by Green Car Reports. Edmunds very recently reported an unprecedented 505 miles in their real-world EV range test of the Lucid Air Dream R, a new record. But most importantly, it's our customers who are truly delighted with Lucid Air. I believe as we get more of our vehicles into our customers' hands, and as we expand our test drive program, our momentum will just continue to build. We're nearing completion of deliveries of Lucid Air Dream Edition and commenced deliveries of Air Grand Touring in the first quarter. Also, having announced the new Air Grand Touring Performance model in April. The dual-motor Grand Touring Performance delivers 1,050 horsepower, making it the most powerful electric vehicle currently available in North America, combined with an exceptional EPA-estimated 446 miles range. The Air Grand Touring, with up to 516 miles of EPA-estimated range, has an unprecedented efficiency of 4.6 miles per kilowatt hour. And I'd like to spend a minute or two on this because I don't believe the importance of EV efficiency is well understood today. In order to drive widespread EV adoption, we must address the cost of making EVs. And here, the really fundamental question is not how much does a battery cost per se in terms of dollars per kilowatt hour, but moreover, how much does it cost to endow an EV with a given amount of range? For example, how much does it cost to create an EV with, say, 200 miles range or 300 miles range or a 400-mile EV? In this context, it's crucial to compare which is the better route to achieve this goal, a reduction in battery costs or an increase in efficiency. Well, with, say, a 10% increase in efficiency, it is possible to achieve the same range with a 10% smaller and therefore 10% less expensive battery. For example, we believe we can endow Lucid Air Pure with over 400 miles range with a battery pack size of less than 90 kilowatt hours. A significant battery downsize, and therefore cost saving and commercial advantage over the competition. But efficiency also drives other very important benefits. Unlike a gasoline car, where the benefit of efficiency is only felt at the cost of a fill-up at the gas station, an efficient EV is a fundamentally superior product in many ways, influencing weight, agility, range, and interior space and comfort. Reducing battery cost, although not to be dismissed, fundamentally only really benefits the cost of manufacture. Whereas we expect increasing efficiency to benefit not only the cost of manufacture, but also the lifetime running costs, plus the lifetime environmental footprint, both through energy consumption and through raw material usage. Now, this final advantage is not to be dismissed lightly, because in a world with a potentially limited raw material supply chain, efficiency becomes the enabler for the manufacture of more electric cars. So, our first step has been to deliver a vehicle with a longer range than anyone else in the market. And our next step, later this year, will be to deliver a vehicle with a range of over 400 miles, but to achieve this with a smaller battery pack than the competition. And this is Lucid's commercial advantage. Now, we're only able to do this because we design, develop, and manufacture our own technology in-house. It's the combination of our proprietary ultra-compact powertrain, state-of-the-art high-voltage inverter, our bidirectional 900-volt Wonderbox, exceptional aerodynamic design, and our scalable and modular battery pack, which is based on our extensive Formula E race experience. I'm aware of only one other who has the technology vertical integration we do. You simply cannot achieve this by buying off-the-shelf components. And I'm proud to say that our efficiency is industry-leading among commercially available passenger vehicles. While others will try to catch up to where we are today, we're not standing still. We're improving on our technological advancements and will drive more innovations and efficiency to remain ahead of the competition. We also continue to make great strides in our software and developed 11 over-the-air software updates in Q1. We hear our customers, and we're delivering on their constructive feedback, many through over-the-air updates. We've designed our vehicles from a clean sheet to be one of the most advanced in the market, and with world-class vehicle technology that will enable us to deliver more features and enhancements without customers having to bring their vehicles in for service. We have the capability to control even the smallest of details in the car via software. With our software-defined vehicles, we can change everything from how the door handles function to increasing key fob battery life. And we'll continue to strive to meet the high standards of our customers by making their Lucids better and better over time. So we think we're extremely well positioned in the technology race. But we need to get Lucid Airs into the hands of more customers, and ramping production of quality vehicles is my top priority. We have over 30,000 customer reservation holders as of today, demonstrating growing interest in Lucid and rising demand even as new competitors arrive. So we're intently focused on production as well as our expansion. And as you can see from the photo in the shareholder presentation, the AMP factory expansion in Arizona is seeing tremendous progress. And once complete, we'll have an additional 2.85 million square feet of production footprint and increase our annual production capacity in Arizona to 90,000 vehicles per year. We're also very excited to be breaking ground on our new factory in Saudi Arabia soon, and very shortly we'll have the grand opening of our Munich studio, signaling the arrival of Lucid to the EU market. And more on this next week when we will debut our EU plans. So our global expansion plans are on track. Now, having said that, I do want to highlight that supply chain dynamics are very fluid, and the COVID lockdowns in China that's impacting others in the industry are also resulting in some bottlenecks for us. But our team is doing an incredible job mitigating this to keep us on track. We also announced today that we're increasing prices on our vehicles that will go into effect at the beginning of June. The world has changed dramatically from the time we first announced Lucid Air back in September 2020. Now, I want to assure our existing reservation holders that we will be honoring current pricing for all existing customers as well as new reservations made before the end of the month. In order to ensure fairness and prioritization, we will be reaching out to reservation holders to facilitate order configurations in order to lock in pricing as their specified model becomes available. Now, lastly, I want to highlight a landmark agreement we made with the government of Saudi Arabia on April 20th. The government has undertaken to purchase up to 100,000 Lucid vehicles. This is one of the single largest electric vehicle purchases that I'm aware of, and we're delighted to be supporting Saudi Arabia in achieving its sustainability goals and net zero ambitions by bringing our advanced luxury EVs to Saudi Arabia. Sherry will go into more details on this momentarily. So, in closing, I believe the electric vehicle market is still in the very early days of secular growth, and I've never been more excited than I am today about our technology, our products, our team, and our future. I firmly believe this is a technology race that is set to play out over the coming years. And I'm highly confident that we are well placed to be a leader with our state-of-the-art in-house developed technology. With that, let me turn it over to Sherry for an update on our financials. Sherry.
Thank you, Peter. Despite ongoing supply chain disruptions, we continue to see terrific progress in the business. This is largely due to the perseverance and astute problem-solving capabilities of the Lucid team across manufacturing, logistics, supply chain, and engineering. We're also grateful to our global supply base who've worked tirelessly with us to find real-time solutions to a very complicated and fluid supply chain situation. We're very pleased with the reservation momentum we're experiencing. We're seeing excellent increasing traffic to our Lucid studios, as well as visits to our website and our award-winning vehicle configurator, all indicating accelerating interest in the Lucid brand. I'd now like to turn our attention to our first quarter financial results. Our Q1 revenue was $57.7 million, which represents a quarter-over-quarter increase of 113%. We remain committed to scaling our business and expect to see significant growth in revenue as our delivery volumes ramp across GT, Touring, and Pure models. Cost of revenue in the first quarter was approximately $246 million. This expected increase was primarily related to personnel and overhead costs as we ramp up production, as well as higher logistic costs and expedited freight due to ongoing supply chain disruption. As a result of these increased costs, we recorded an impairment charge of $96.4 million in the first quarter to reduce inventories to their net realizable value. As noted last quarter, we expect increased freight and overhead will result in impairment charges, which will negatively impact cost of revenue in 2022, though we expect this impact to lessen over time. R&D expense was $186.1 million, in line with our expectations. Peter talked about how our efficiency is driven by the in-house design, development, and manufacturing of our own proprietary technology, and we continue to focus on pushing the technology envelope. Specifically, we're investing in state-of-the-art battery and powertrain equipment and facilities, software advancements, and world-class talent. SG&A expense of $223.2 million was comprised in part of expenses related to growing our retail studio and service network, along with investments to build out our systems and personnel globally. We opened 4 additional studios and service centers and continue to prepare for growth in North America, Europe, and the Middle East this year. Stock-based compensation in the quarter was approximately $175 million. $116 million of this amount was in SG&A, $50 million was in research and development, and the balance of $8.5 million was in cost of revenues. In other income, we recognized a non-cash gain of approximately $523 million related to the mark-to-market value of private warrants. The value of the warrants can be influenced quarter to quarter by a number of factors, including Lucid Group's end-of-quarter share price. Moving to the balance sheet. We ended the quarter with close to $5.4 billion of cash on hand, which we expect will fund us well into 2023. We have multiple options for additional funding to further solidify our position, which will enable us to continue to be opportunistic in the market. Capital expenditures were $185 million in Q1, and we expect CapEx for the year to be around $2 billion as we continue to invest in the incredible opportunity ahead. Our 2022 CapEx will be used for facility and machinery and equipment expansion in Arizona, retail and service center development, early investment in Saudi Arabia, and other CapEx associated with vehicle and component development. We remain committed to scaling our business and are executing against our strategic objectives. Ramping production is a high priority to fulfill growing demand as we're selling every vehicle we can make. As Peter indicated earlier, we successfully delivered 360 cars to our customers in Q1, and in April alone, we delivered over 300 vehicles, demonstrating our accelerated production ramp. Total reservations grew to 30,000 as of today, which doesn't include the additional 100,000 units from the agreement with the government of Saudi Arabia. And we believe interest will continue to increase as the number of Lucid Airs on the road grows and as more consumers are able to experience its luxury and performance in person. We continue to build out our physical presence through our expanding retail studio and service footprint. We added 4 new locations in Toronto, New Jersey, Arizona, and Southern California in the first quarter for a total of 24, and more recently opened a location in Boston. We have additional new locations planned for 2022, including the grand opening of our first European studio in Munich, Germany next week. In the first quarter, we started deliveries of the Grand Touring Air, and in April, we announced the Grand Touring Performance. We announced pricing for the Grand Touring Performance at $179,000, reflecting our appreciation for our early Lucid Air Dream purchasers, but also reflecting cost increases in the commodity, supply chain, and logistics end markets. To align these fluid market dynamics, we're announcing price increases to our Lucid Air line. As of June 1st, the new pricing will be $154,000 for Grand Touring, $107,400 for Touring, and $87,400 for Pure. And as Peter said, we will honor current pricing for all existing customer reservations, as well as new reservations made before the end of the month, as long as potential customers convert their reservations to orders within 30 days of the opening of the order system. While we are and always will be intently focused on finding ways to lower the cost of making our vehicles and providing value to our loyal customer base, we also need to be mindful of the changing industry dynamics and will continue to be vigilant and take action as necessary. As Peter also mentioned, we entered into a landmark agreement with the government of Saudi Arabia, where they will undertake to purchase up to 100,000 vehicles over a 10-year period. The initial commitment is to purchase 50,000 vehicles with an option to purchase up to an additional 50,000 vehicles. Deliveries will start no later than 2023, and we expect orders will range from 1,000 to 2,000 vehicles annually and increase to 4,000 to 7,000 vehicles starting in 2025. The purchase price of the vehicles will be determined based on the lower of the standard retail price for the applicable vehicle in Saudi Arabia and the standard retail price for the applicable vehicle in the United States, plus the logistics and importation costs and other costs of delivering and homologating vehicles to meet the regulations of Saudi Arabia. We're also excited to announce that we'll be breaking ground very shortly on our previously announced manufacturing facility in Saudi Arabia, which should enable us to meet the growing demand for Lucid's products over time. On our last earnings call, we announced agreements with the Ministry of Investment of Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Investment Development Fund, and the King Abdullah Economic City. We are honored to be a part of the country's vision of transformation in their commitment to advancing the automotive ecosystem and the manufacturing of sustainable transportation in the country. Moving to our production outlook. Similar to many companies in our industry, we continue to face global supply chain and logistics challenges, including COVID-related factory shutdowns in China. We are working closely with our suppliers to mitigate the impact of disruptions. While any extended disruptions could result in an impact to our production forecast, today we are reiterating our 12,000 to 14,000 vehicle production guidance for 2022 based on the information we have at this point, combined with our mitigation plan. We're also reiterating our CapEx of roughly $2 billion in 2022 and continue to believe our current cash on hand is sufficient to fund our scaling well into 2023. From a product perspective, we're excited to start delivering the Air Grand Touring Performance in June and the Air Touring and Air Pure later this year, with Project Gravity SUV remaining on target to begin production in the first half of 2024, and much more to come. In closing, I want to thank our dedicated and talented employees and our partners and suppliers who are working to bring our award-winning products to the global marketplace. We're confident that our in-house technology, coupled with our investments in our manufacturing, sales, and service footprint, will enable us to meet our growing customer demand and provide substantial benefits for all of our stakeholders. Following Peter's closing remarks, we'll begin the Q&A portion of today's call. Today's Q&A will feature questions from some of our retail investors, an important constituency of our shareholder base, through the Say Technologies platform. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Peter for closing remarks.
Thank you, Sherry. We are intently focused on ramping production this year to get more of our award-winning vehicles into customers' hands. And this is a top priority, and we are pushing hard. Our geographic expansion plans are progressing as planned, and I believe our product roadmap is second to none, with the Grand Touring Performance, Grand Touring, Pure, and Project Gravity on schedule for their respective timelines. And we'll have more to share with you in the future. And with that, let me turn it back to Maynard to get to your questions. Maynard.
Thank you, Peter. We'll now start the Q&A portion of the call. We'll start by taking questions from our retail investors sent into the SAY platform before we take questions from the phone, and close out with a couple more investor questions. Our first question is, how do you intend to compete with both Tesla and Rivian given current supply chain and market constraints?
Well, we're highly confident that we can compete against the very best based upon our EV technology leadership. We compete on our technology differentiation, on our unprecedented efficiency, and in our in-house vertical integration. And I talked about our unprecedented efficiency in my prepared remarks, and how this is only possible because we design, develop, and manufacture our own technology in-house. We're truly vertically integrated, and you cannot achieve this just by buying, off-the-shelf components. We also differentiate ourselves by having a luxury brand mindset. We're focused on quality and having a customer-centric approach to our direct-to-consumer experience. We want our brand to reflect not only the best EV in the market, but also the experience of that to our customers. But the EV market is not a zero-sum game today. We compete in a global car market. And let's not forget, our primary competition is gasoline cars, not other EVs. I've said before, I don't believe there's such a thing as just a market for EVs. There's a market for cars. And the EV market penetration is very low today. We believe the EV share will come at the expense of gasoline cars. So I'm incredibly optimistic. I see a tremendous amount of runway ahead of us. Sherry?
Yeah, I'd also add that in my prepared remarks, I spoke about the supply chain challenges that are impacting the entire automotive industry. Now, we've been able to mitigate some of these issues because of our vertical integration and our in-house design capabilities. When you design your own tech, it just allows you an increased level of flexibility and control. For example, because we design many of our own printed circuit boards, we've been able to redesign, qualify, and even source a different chip directly from our existing semiconductor supply base that we have direct relationships with. In other situations, as I mentioned last quarter, we've been buying ahead in the spot markets, and we continue to work really closely with our supply base to mitigate impact and look at risks ahead of time. But in some cases, we have had to switch suppliers, and we have even insourced where it made engineering and financial sense.
Our next question is, the investor presentation in July 2021 mentions a prototype energy storage system progressing well. How is the Lucid energy storage system progressing now, and when do you expect production for the Lucid ESS to begin?
Yeah, well, we're primarily focused on vehicles today, but we do fully recognize that our tech is extensible to other growth markets that we can help drive, our sustainability mission. We analyze different markets to understand where our tech could give us a unique advantage to compete with, and one of the most promising ones we called out was energy storage, or ESS. Now, our first prototype has validated the capability of our technology. It's running, and it's here at our headquarters here in Silicon Valley. It's attached to our solar field array, and it's working well. And we've installed a significant solar array at our AMP1 factory in Arizona, and that is in readiness to connect and integrate our second prototype there at the factory, and this is currently in the development phase.
Yeah, And to put this in context, it's a small amount of our people and financial resources today, but we see a lot of future potential here. We've been examining and we are examining multiple end markets, including residential, commercial, industrial, and utility to see where it might be best for us to play today. But right now we're focused, firstly, and laser focused on the vehicle market. But we'll be sure to keep you apprised as we have any more to say on this topic and as developments come forth.
Our next question is, with the report of Saudi Arabia buying upwards of 100,000 cars from the company, do you think that will drive more buyers from other areas of the world? Or are there other big orders such as that just aren't public?
Thanks, Maynard. Yeah, we're seeing many legislation from a number of other countries towards achieving a goal of zero emissions. And that aligns with the mission of our company to bring sustainable technologies to the world. And we're thrilled that Saudi Arabia has shown such vision and commitment to our company. The government undertook to purchase up to 100,000 Lucid vehicles, and we believe they're buying the very best EV tech there is. The purchase price of the vehicles will be based on our standard retail prices, as we shared in our earlier announcement. Just to put this in context, this is one of the single largest electric vehicle purchases that we're aware of, and we're delighted to support Saudi Arabia in achieving its sustainability goals and net zero ambitions. I also want to highlight that in connection with the King Abdullah Economic City, the SIDF and the MISA agreements that we signed in February, we expect to receive up to $3.4 billion in financing and incentives with respect to CapEx and operations for our manufacturing factory in KSA. Now, this includes financing provided by the SIDF loan, and that's disclosed in our 10Q. In addition, we recently secured a revolver facility from Gulf International Bank, which is also disclosed in our subsequent events section if you want more detail. We also expect that the unprecedented efficiency that we have aligns very strongly with what fleet operators care about, and there's many benefits also to our bidirectional technology. So we don't have anything to announce today, but we think our efficiency and our bidirectional technology are going to be a really important part of the value proposition to this set of potential customers.
Our next question is, what is Lucid's plan for a charging network? Tesla obviously has the advantage over the EV market right now with their network of chargers. Will Lucid be mirroring a similar solution, or will there be an adapter to utilize other charging networks?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, the remarkable efficiency and range of Lucid Air mean you can replace range anxiety with range confidence. You can go further in the first place. And we also have an advantage because we have the fastest charging car in the world. We've demonstrated up to 300 miles range in about 22 minutes. It's a profound commercial and technology advantage. You simply charge less when you have greater efficiency and the longest usable range. And there's also, I believe, that we have a significant second mover advantage. We've got a 900-volt vehicle. Others are at 400 volts. And we have a much faster charging vehicle. And when you need to charge, you can charge your Lucid Air virtually anywhere in North America using an open source combined charging system, the CCS plug, the current standard. That's super important that we're open source. And then we combine Air's Wonderbox boost charger, can automatically recognize your Air, adjust the incoming voltage, and boost voltage for the quickest possible charge. So it's got boost voltage capability. And this makes charging easy at home or at any public station. And you can also charge it up by plugging the included Lucid mobile charging cable into a typical household outlet or a NEMA 1450 for a faster rated charge. Now, that said, along with Air's astonishing range, you can also benefit from our partnership with Electrify America and the most extensive network of ultra-fast public charging stations nationwide. And they have over 750 stations and over 3,300 chargers, I believe, across the US, and plan to have more by the end of the year. And don't forget, when you reserve an air by June 30th, 2022, you'll get complimentary access to up to 350 kilowatt charging for 3 full years in the USA.
Next question. Are you planning on releasing a new vehicle this year? If so, when do you think it would come out?
Thanks, Maynard. Yeah, so the answer to that is yes. In our Outlook section of the shareholder presentation, also in my prepared remarks, we said we would have the Air Grand Touring Performance in June, and then that's going to be sequentially followed by the Air Touring and the Air Pure later this year. And of course, we still have the production of the Project Gravity SUV starting in the first half of 2024.
Thank you. We'll now take some questions from the phone lines. David, can we take the first question, please?
Yes, thank you. If you are using a speakerphone, please pick up your handset before pressing star and 1 to ensure your signal reaches our equipment. If your question has been answered and you wish to remove yourself from the queue, please press the pound key. And we'll take our first question from the site of 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 with Citi. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Great, thanks. Hi, everybody. Just first, I was hoping you could share the production numbers in Q1. I apologize if I missed it earlier, and also where you were in April. And I know you talked about deliveries for the quarter and production for the full year, but hoping to get a sense of where you are on the production ramp.
Yeah, sure. Hey, great to have you with us, by the way. We had 360 deliveries in Q1, and then as for production vehicles in Q1, we had nearly 700.
Perfect. Any kind of early update on Q2, maybe an April number?
Well, we actually delivered over 300 vehicles to customers in April. And this is a very interesting progression, almost a geometric progression we're seeing here. Because, in Q1 of this year, we delivered 360 to customers, and very nearly triple what we delivered to customers, 125 in Q4 of last year. And then we're seeing over 300 customer deliveries in April. And it's so easy to do sort of invalid math here. People take a quarter and they multiply it before and come to the wrong answer for the year. This is a progression. It's almost a geometric progression that we're seeing unfolding.
So, Amy, as we said in our prepared remarks, we are reiterating our 12,000 to 14,000 guidance for the balance of the year, so long as the supply chain logistics disruptions aren't material and our mitigation plans are effective. We've been watching the China lockdown situation really closely. We have had a little bit of impact there. We had a couple of days that we did shut down, and we did have a little bit of slowing for about a week and a half in April. But we have mitigation plans in place. We were able to get access to some warehouses. We were able to move production to another area of China in one case. And so long as things continue to progress and really resolve through the course of May, we're feeling comfortable with what we've stated.
Indeed, we're reiterating our 12,000 to 14,000 vehicle production forecast for 22, and that's based on the information we have at this point, combined with our current mitigation plans.
Great, that's very helpful. And just a quick follow-up on the price increase. I think you alluded to it a bit before. Is that all reflective of higher input costs? And if you could maybe talk a little bit more detail about specific cost increases you're seeing, kind of what sort of in there that you're trying to kind of cover for?
Yeah, sure. Let me provide some context there. Well, first of all, the pricing actions that will be effective June 1st won't start to impact our financials in a meaningful way, likely until 2023. There might be some slight positive impact in 2022. Our raw material exposures have been ranging in, call it 5 to 10% of our BOM cost, depending on the vehicle variant. And these actions will help to offset those inflationary pressures throughout this year, which are typically delayed due to the way the contracts are written. Usually the indices move and then we pay either the quarter or semi-annually following that. We do have other exposures, though, including expedites, which have been very high due to the supply chain disruptions and record freight prices. We also have a little bit of exposure on steel and construction costs. A lot of that's locked in for our phase 2, but we do have a little bit of exposure on the back end with respect to steel. So looking ahead, I'd say our current belief is that costs will stay elevated or slightly higher than they are today for the next couple of quarters. And then we are expecting some stabilization might occur.
Great. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
David, we'll take our next question, please.
Of course, we'll take our next question from 𝗪𝗪𝗡𝗘𝗧𝗧 with Redburn. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, thanks for taking my questions. My first one, again, just on the price rises that you've announced today. So I think it's the price rises are between 8 and 13%. And if I look at some of your competition, I note that Rivian raised its prices on average by 18% back in March, and Tesla's raised the price of the Model S by 25% over the last 12 months. So do you think that there's further room for raising the prices that you have on the Lucid Air, especially given the quality of the product, as you mentioned?
Yeah, so here's what I would say about that, and good to have you with us here today. I'd say we don't know for certain. The situation is very fluid. We are actively monitoring it, and we will act as required. You know, we are pushing ahead also, though, with many engineering changes and cost reduction initiatives that are aimed at lowering our cost basis for the vehicles. So that is helping to offset, you know, some of this as well. But if we do have to raise further, one of the things that we're comforted by is we know that we offer a very unique value proposition to customers, and we believe there's no other vehicle on the market that offers the same combination of efficiency, performance, range, space, and design that we have. So like other companies, we are experiencing these real increases in commodities, and we're just going to have to balance the benefits that we provide to all our stakeholders, whether it be our customers, our suppliers, or our investors. But we believe that the action we're taking right now best optimizes, and then as for future, we're just going to have to watch and see.
Indeed, Charles, I think Sherry raises a really salient point here, and it's not recognized sufficiently. Our efficiency advantage becomes a commercial advantage. We can provide a car with competitive range for a smaller battery pack, and that helps in our cost structure.
Great, thank you. And my second question, on the batteries, can you just remind us what your current battery cell supplier relationships are, how they're structured, and the extent to which higher raw material input costs will hit you in 2022, or whether or not it's sort of delayed to 2023 and beyond? And finally, how much battery capacity is already locked in with your suppliers, and until when?
Sure. So we have long-term contracts with two of the major global suppliers, that's LG and Samsung. Those are multi-year in nature. We also have some stateside production that's going to be coming on board as well. On the raw material side, we are exposed, like most companies are, to the raw materials in the batteries, but we are fortunate in that we can leverage the buying power of LG and Samsung in their access to these raw materials going forward. Now, as for our availability, we are covered fully through this year, and we also have most of our coverage for the next couple of years, but we are working with both LG and Samsung, as well as another company that we're in the process of validating this fall, that we expect will come on board with them either later this year or early next year. And we're working with these three groups in order to supply the balance of what we need. But right now, things are looking promising at this point.
Indeed.
Great, thank you.
David, we'll take our next question, please.
As a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, please press the star and 1 keys on your telephone keypad. We'll take our next question from John Murphy with Bank of America. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just a first question on the GT Air performance. I think if I heard it right, the price was $179,000, and this is a new, as far as I can tell, a new trim level that's being announced. So not just in addition to pricing, you're working on mix, right? The
Okay, there was a lot of static in the line, John, but I think we got some of that. I think you were asking about the GTP, the GT performance pricing. You're right, that is $179,000. That does sit above the new pricing that we've just launched for the GT, which will be $154,000 effective June 1st. The base was $139,000. And we'll stay on the GT, and we'll stay that through May 31st. Now, I think you were asking a little bit about like our revenue generation capability and maybe the ability of this product. Peter, if you would talk maybe a bit about how you see, customers' desire for this product.
Indeed, Sherry. I mean, what happened was that we were oversubscribed, very significantly oversubscribed for Dream Edition. And customers were asking, well, hey, we want, where's the 1,000 horsepower car? People have gone power crazy here. Where is the 1,000 horsepower car? We want a 1,000 horsepower car. So we quickly turned around, and we're very responsive. We're a tech company, fleet-footed, and we created the GT Performance at 1,050 horsepower. Now, that price reflects our commitment to Dream Edition customers. They put commitment and faith in us, and I think they got a bargain.
So maybe to follow up, if you can hear me better now, because it's picked up my headset, hopefully that helps. How much opportunity is there to potentially do more performance versions like this and take advantage of mix, not just raising price?
Very difficult to hear what you're saying there, John.
He's asking about the ability to do more of these in the future.
I think there's always an opportunity. I think this is showing the power of the brand, and it's showing that the product defines the brand. We are being considered as a brand that can command this sort of position in the market against the traditional grandee marks already because of the prowess of our product.
And the other thing I think you may have touched on was just mix generally. So let me give you a little bit of context there. Similar to last quarter, we continue to see the demand for the GT product exceeding that of the Touring, and we're building the GT product now. We'll then be building the Touring, then the Pure as we're exiting the year. So you're going to continue to see very strong mix throughout this year, slightly decreasing as you sequentially bring on these other products that are priced slightly lower.
And that's really a healthy position for us, because as we're ramping up, carefully maintaining the quality, it's great for us that we can sell higher end products through that ramp up and don't have to transition to more affordable products quite yet.
It's absolutely right, Peter, because the absorption costs will start to improve over time as the volume increases as we get through the next couple of quarters and into next year. So you're going to start to see some relief on what you're seeing happening right now in the negative gross margins as that greater level of production comes on board.
Yeah, and we're seeing it reflected in the 30,000 orders that we've now got, the reservation, 30,000 reservations, a very healthy mix between GT, Touring, and Pure.
And maybe if I could talk really loud to cut through the static. Hopefully you can hear me better now. I'll talk really loud. There's a revolver, Sherry, that you mentioned of $267 million I found in the 10Q, but then you also mentioned $3.4 billion, I think, of additional funding for the Saudi plant. Is that number correct? And where is that coming from, and how is that structured? And is that incremental to the $5.4 billion in cash that's on the balance sheet right now?
Sure. So the revolver is from Gulf International Bank. That is in addition to the $3.4 billion of financing and incentives that we had mentioned. Now, in the 10Q and the notes, you can go to note 6, you can go to note 19 and 20. You're going to see some detail in there about the SIDF loan, how it's structured. You'll also see mention to the GIB in there, the Gulf International Bank revolver, the $267 million that you just referenced. You'll also see in there information about our lease. that we're getting through the 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 economic city, and you'll be able to see some of the dollars associated with that as well. So that's giving you some of the tools you need to be able to understand the financing that is available to us, and then additionally there's incentives. Now, we did decide to proactively adopt a new government assistance standard, a disclosure standard, as of January 1st of this year. So as any of these incentives or any of these loan items come on board on our balance sheet and impact, we will be showing that in the financial statements through notes and disclosures. So you'll be able to get information, fairly real time with respect to that. Now, you were breaking up a little bit. I think you were asking about the $5.4 billion of cash on hand. We continue to feel really good about our ability to be well into 2023, and the addition of some of these financing packages has continued to strengthen our liquidity situation and our access to financing. We did have some of that baked into our forward model, but this continues to de-risk that for us.
Great, David. We'll take the next question.
And there are no further questions on the phone at this time. I'll turn the call back to you, Maynard.
Thank you. So we'll now take our last retail investor question before concluding the call. And the last question is, what is Lucid's 5-year plan?
Oh, Maynard, I think this is my favorite question. I think we didn't pose this ourselves. Look, it's about product. I'm an engineer. Product is king. And a great brand is built by having the best products, and it's actually defined by those products. And I'm so excited we're going to do Air Pure, Project Gravity SUV, and further drive technology innovation. We have a roadmap and a tech roadmap to keep on advancing. Now, really what we've done so far, step one was to establish Lucid as a global luxury brand and create a vehicle with incredible range through efficiency. We've done that. Now, step two is even more interesting because that is to scale globally into the premium segment and to commercialize vehicles that use smaller battery packs with competitive range versus other vehicles in the market. And I've already noted that ramping production is my top priority. We're making really good strides here. Again, efficiency is our key USP. Now, beyond that, I'm aiming for a mid-sized platform mid-decade. I'm really enthusiastic about that. We could only do this by starting off by creating our technology flagships, Air and Gravity first, by advancing the efficiency and setting the new EV benchmarks, and then by making more affordable products. Remember, we design all our EV powertrain in-house. We develop it all and we manufacture it all in our special factory in Arizona. And we think we can become even more efficient over time, and that will translate well into our product roadmap. Sherry.
Sure, and if you look at our current manufacturing plans, we expect to have capacity for 500,000 vehicles annually as we cross the mid-decade mark. So to break that down, we're going from 34,000 capacity in Arizona to 90,000 with our Phase 2 expansion. As we complete the AMP1 Phase 2 expansion, we'll move directly into Phase 3, and we believe that can get us to about 350,000 annual vehicle capacity in Arizona. Then you add the 150,000 vehicle capacity from Saudi Arabia, and that gets you to about 500,000 by just after mid-decade. And then to remind investors, we do have the $5.4 billion on the balance sheet. As we just spoke with John Murphy, we do also have access to this financing in the kingdom, and we believe that this funds us well into 2023.
Exactly, Sherry. So, we're very focused on product in our long-term plan. Near term, we're focused on ramping production and getting more of our vehicles into customers' hands. And I have to say in closing, I've never been more excited than I am today about our tech, our products, our team, and our future. The electric vehicle market is still in its very early days of secular growth, and I believe our focus on product, technology, quality, and service will put us in an enviable market position.
Thank you, Peter. This concludes Lucid's first quarter 2022 earnings conference call.
No, just like that, they just end it. Cool. Okay, so I think a lot of good takeaways from this, so we can have a little fun discussion about this. I do feel that there was a lot of good things that were said there. They reiterated that about the debt, that it's being that it was low interest, so which note 6 is what she referred to, 1.25%, the convertible note, which comes due December 2026. Conversion rate of 54.78. So again, it even if it goes to $200 by 2026 or even more, conversion caps out at 54.78. So very still beneficial for Lucid in the long run. And yeah, I think there was some good key takeaways. They're pushing Grand Touring. They want that globally, more of a cost efficient one. Probably not the obviously the performance model, but at least that is going to be coming. Same with the Air Peer later this year, even though there's been hints of it. I think John did post that, but let me know your thoughts. What's some takeaways that you guys got from all that? I think in general the market is fairly, you can see it's flat. It's not really acting to anything. Like people, I think it was fairly, they did speak with a lot more enthusiasm. I really like that Shelly, and based on her, what we've seen from her pay, she's really underpaid. She carried it. Peter definitely did do a lot of good points, but hats off to Shelly for sure. I think also as well, just April alone, so I think John's indicated that there was 400 produced, 300 delivered just in April. That is an amazing takeaway as well. So I know there's a lot of naysayers out there that seem to think and really focus on that production, but it comes down to April showed that we can do it. So I think that's a good takeaway. Let me know your guys' thoughts overall on that. I think it was fairly good. Keep in mind, we kind of came into this knowing that it wasn't going to be necessarily the best. It was going to be mixed, and if anything, this was going to be probably the worst one out of for 2022. So I agree with a lot of people was saying that it's going to get better. It's better from here, and assuming the market doesn't crash, like these are amazing prices, and given the futures of this market right now, I feel that it can definitely trend up from here. That we had a big sell-off today, a lot of fear out in the market, but I think it showed a lot of strong value. Peter did reiterate that many times. Yeah, Eric, I know, I feel. I like to say that little disclaimer and fun stuff. Kind of, Tyler. It is, I think a lot of stocks have gone down significantly. Lucid's done fairly well in comparison to a lot of other ones. Yeah, Josh, Jose, what, I might be saying that completely wrong, but still, the peer is set for 2022 still. That is a big thing. Definitely not pushing that back. Gravity, at least they reiterated that. They did talk on some supply chain issues, largely coming from China. But I think, again, that was to be expected. They didn't really kind of elaborate on that. I'm excited. Exactly, Jamie. Shelly did a phenomenal job. And I think it was just expected. There was a lot of things, as if they asked that question, though, was the Lucid's 5-year plan. But actually some key takeaways as well. So with the inauguration of Munich, I thought it was the 13th. John posted somewhere saying that it was the 12th, but Peter didn't say any of that. So that's, I don't know. I don't know what to feel about that. So yeah, he didn't really elaborate when Munich is actually having its launch, given obviously the 12th or 13th is next week. He should have, or at least would have said something along those lines, but he did say that next week that they're going to be just saying their Europe expansion plans. That is going to be a good catalyst for next week. And keep in mind, next week we should have a lot of the big players disclosing their positions in Lucid. So we got the big ones, so PIF, Vanguard, BlackRock, all coming next week. We got Morgan Stanley. A lot of the big names are all next week. So I think it'll be a wild ride, and I'm here for it. Yeah, exactly. Hopefully we have a good week ahead of us. I'm confident in it in general. Exactly. 30,000 reservations, that's a very strong point as well. And I think at least this was good enough to hopefully prompt a lot more analysts to give ratings on Lucid as well. I brought this up. I did put a link to this in the description as well if you guys want to pop over there. It has a lot of good information here, but hopefully this will bring a lot more analysts to review Lucid, because typically even when like for instance Exane gave a $45 price target on Lucid, that caused it to go up. So I think overall a lot of these is fairly good, and a lot of the big names did speak today. So Citi spoke, Bank of America spoke. I don't believe I'm familiar with the second analyst that spoke, but still, I think it's a lot of exciting things to come for our way. And again, just looking at the social sentiment leading into tomorrow, we'll see what overall going into earnings was fairly positive. So I like it, and also just want to give you a good summary as far as some short information. We'll see what they do tomorrow, but as far as an update, it does look like they closed at 1.58%, 4.14 million. So I don't think this earnings was good enough to cause a squeeze by any means, and it does look like after hours the NASDAQ is going down a little bit more, but still, I think we're down a lot today. You know what, Danny? I completely agree. I wish it was a lot higher, but still, I think the whole Saudi deal was very good. They did touch on that, and they said basically a lot more is to come. So just the fact that they're looking to expand a efficient vehicle that has a lower battery capability, so meaning aka a little bit more cheaper, to globally, I think that's a good thing. I don't think he dodged it, Danny. I think he touched on it as best as he could. Fahad, they established connections with, for instance, like LG and Samsung to produce the batteries. There was one other one as well. But yeah, they said that they have enough to produce up to 2023. So hopefully by then, all the supply chain issues is kind of concluded. In addition to that, whatever is dealing with China it is what it is. But I think there's some good things, good key takeaways. They kind of alluded to and they touched on the debt, how it's very low financing, very not really damaging to Lucid and the share price, meaning dilution. So I think them touching on that is very good. One thing that annoyed me is that it says that because of supply chain constraints that delivering vehicles costed more than expected. I think that is unfortunate. As far as I'm aware, I don't think they actually have their railroad connected to the UP railway yet, because hands down that would be the most cost efficient way, unless they're delivering like in a close vicinity to the next state over possibly. But now with a lot of studios opening up in, like, for instance, Boston, Manhattan, a lot of places. I think would be advantageous for them to transition to more of a rail line. No, they did not, Rob. That would have been good for them to say. They said that they're making a lot of progress in that front, though. Thanks, Sammy. Appreciate that. Thanks for coming out. But Rob, as far as I'm aware, they are planning it for the early 2023 or late 2022, if I remember correctly. Anu, as far as I know, they didn't even refer to any carpet or glass. They just said China. So I think they're saying it in a very safe way, which is good, because I think people really took, like, the literal meaning of glass and carpet and kind of saw that in a negative image. So the fact that they said about it being China related, I think was very beneficial. And also, if you guys are looking forward to keep up to date with a lot of Lucid information, make sure you guys subscribe to me, hit that thumbs up as well. And also, if you're looking for a good go-to Discord, make sure you click the link, join them. It's free to do that, and I highly suggest doing that. I go there for a lot of good information as well. And also click on the link as well for a lot of good information and stats for that 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗘𝗧. See you, Marbat. See you, everyone. Or Sammy, I guess you're leaving. Yeah, I think this was a pretty neutral earnings, similar to what last one was. But I think, again, the expectation was that this was going to be largely a fail. And so I think by it not being a fail, it was good. You can even tell based on the after hours activity, the fact that we're flat can be seen as a very much good thing. And just showing you right here the after hours activity. Since the call, it went down a little bit, so it's at 1890, but even it had a lot of volatility, so it hit a low of 1822, high of 1945-ish, and then clearly, like I said, it was fairly neutral throughout the whole earnings. Had said a lot of good things, some possible negative things, which is why you see it being flat. But coming from an investor, Lucid is not going to become a multi-billion-dollar company overnight. Thanks, John. Appreciate that. Thanks to everyone for popping out. Oh, thanks, Tyrell. Yeah, it was fun. I think this fueled us. And plus, I think a good takeaway that I think he prematurely actually said it. Because I don't think they would normally pre-say something that wasn't PR. But Peter did say that they're going to give it earnings or Europe expansion plans next week. So that might be a PR that is coming down the pipeline for next week. So that's a positive thing. But I think they didn't really touch on the inauguration. So I guess you get one negative. But if you actually read the PR, all it says is May 2022. I think it's just rumors that have been floating around that maybe it said 13th or 12th, or unless I'm missing something. But I think I'd much prefer to have European expansion plans than a inauguration in Europe. So as far as piecing that together, I'm happy with that. They touched on a lot of good things and kind of alluded to a little bit more of a lower price vehicle, or at least they're trying to lower costs as best as possible. I like the analyst who was comparing the price increases for, like, for instance, Tesla and Lucid being between 8 to 12% and Tesla 25%. Goes to show that Lucid has a lot of good agreements and that they are willing to, in many cases, eat fees for customers. And I guess on another positive note is right here. If I find it. No, yes. So right here, about end of May 31st, 2021, anyone who converts, because obviously it can't have a reservation going up to that. If you have a reservation up until that point, it's going to go up. If you actually have a convert it to an order, so if you are invited to place the order, then you get that secured pricing. And I think that is going to be very good, because that means next earnings we're going to have our revenue jump up significantly because of that. So it'll add to the bottom line. So 5.4 billion should go up in theory because of a lot of reservations converting to orders. Personally, I think after hours activity, people, like, you have to keep in mind we've gone down roughly about 7% today. At some stages a little bit more. So I think the fact that people after hours in general is a very slow moving kind of time period, and I think a lot of retail investors don't really know what to do right now. Especially, I think the broader market is still in fear, a little bit more fear mode. So I think they're waiting for a little bit more confirmation, but I think it should bring a lot more value into Lucid. And personally, just might be me, I liked the earnings, especially some snippets from it. It would have been nice to know where that 30,000 originated from, because like I said, going before the earnings, it would have been nice to have some European, or at least him indicate that like a certain percentage of the new reservations were from Europe or something along those lines. So I think that would have been a good takeaway, but should be positive tomorrow. That's how I see things, especially we've gone down as much as we have been. I think in general, a lot of value investors are going to start getting into not just Lucid, but a lot of other growth stocks, causing a nice little temporary rally tomorrow. Ricardo, you know what? No, I wouldn't go as saying bearish. I think just the broader market is bearish. So we're having fairly good stats that are coming out. Not necessarily the production, but if you look at April, like April alone outpaced all of Q1. So it goes to show, I've said before this, you have to kind of look and compare the two differences. So you have to compare like Q4 to Q1. And then now we have April info. So in April alone, they outproduced all of Q1. So that shows that they are on the right path for something good. So I'm excited for Q2. Some people, I'm sure, are going to convert this to bearish, some news, and this is why you have to make sure you do your own due diligence, because everyone interprets things differently. That possibly, you never know, right? They might need more, but if it's to actually secure the Project Gravity, I'm sure a lot of people would be more than happy to do that. New Vehicle Media. Yeah, he has some pretty good videos out there. Fahad. Okay, so they did refer to note 6 for their long-term debt. So of the 5.4 billion, I think it's fairly good. Their burn rate is around 800 million versus previous ones. It was 1.06 billion. So they're operationally, they're going in the right direction. As far as the long-term debt that they touched on, I'm happy with it. Even if we go over, like, no matter what, I think in any regard, it's going to get exercised a lot. So ultimately dilution, but that's going to be December 2026. By then, it's going to be such a high price that we won't really care. And the max conversion rate it caps out at 54.78. So this is why this whole deal was very beneficial for Lucid, because they get a convertible rate of 1.25%. So very cheap. And it caps out at 54.78. So I think I'm pretty happy with how things turned out. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I greatly appreciate all of that, and popping in, joining me for this fun live stream. Like I said in the chat, I did put in links to a Discord. I highly suggest you popping over and taking a look at that. And also for where I get a lot of good stats and charts, I've been putting links on there as well. So recommend you guys take a look. All you, like, it's free to join a Discord, has a lot of good information. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. And I agree with Danny. 2023 is going to be a very good year for Lucid, its investors. You just have to be patient and look back at Tesla, because with Tesla starting out, very bumpy ride, but we all see where Tesla is now. And I think that's where we strive to be. And I think Peter did say a lot of good questions, answered a lot of good questions of these done correctly. ESS, he spoke on about how they tend to compete. So I think in a lot of these regards, they're doing fairly well. But with all that, guys, I appreciate you guys all joining me. Again, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, subscribe, stay tuned for a lot of fun videos for Lucid. And with that, let's all make a lot of money on Lucid, guys. Thanks for watching.